Is this world of technology leading everything? Do you find yourself grabbing the calculator to work out simple sums, such as 30% of 200? Do you use too much financial language and not enough simple explanations for your clients? Ask yourself this: what is the growth rate needed for an investment to double in 10 years? Let's face it, if you could achieve double your clients' money in 10 years, I'm sure they'd be pleased. My name is Andrew Goodwin, and this is a short presentation on the very useful rule, the 72 rule. The 72 rule, or the rule of 72, is indeed cool. It's a quick, useful formula that is used to estimate the number of years required for an investment to double at a given annual rate of return. We're going to have a look at it in a little bit more detail and look at some of the practical uses of the rule itself. Okay, so let's have a look at the actual formula. The 72 rule means that 72, the number 72, divided by the rate of return, say 7.2%, gives you a time an investment will double. So in this example, if you wanted to double your money, that would be your goal. The question is, what is the interest rate and how long? So at 7.2%, it would double in 10 years because 72 divided by 7.2 equals 10. That's your starting point, that's your base, and as a financial advisor, 7.2% per year is not out of the way. It can be difficult in some years, but it could be quite easily achievable in others. We're looking at a compound average of 7.2% to achieve. Medium plus, we'll let you decide. But it's not out of the way. 7.2% compound over 10 years will double the client's investment. It's absolutely essential that you realize that this is in fact an estimate. It's designed for you to have an easy and simple conversation with your clients about the investment, what they need to do, because you're trying to set goals and therefore look at the shortfall required to meet that goal and exactly what you have to do to achieve it. So it's important that you recognize that this formula, this 72 rule, is an estimate because there are so many other variables involved, including anything that might change that you're not aware of in the time to achieving the goal. Not just inflation, not just economic conditions, not just the time that might change, the access to further investment. There are a whole host of variables. So it's only to be used as an estimate to set a goal and to give your clients a target. But it's a lot easier than logarithms because working with compound interest rates means you do need to work with logarithms or a calculator, which is faster than logarithms, but not necessarily faster than the 72 rule. So on the left-hand side here, there's a table of rates. Apply the rule, and it gives you the number of years. And remember, this is all about the number of years required at a given rate to double the client's money. So on the top left-hand side, if you achieved a rate of return of 2%, then the rule of 72 means that there will be 36 years to achieve 2% compound to double the money. The actual years is 35 because this is an estimate. Again, if you move down that table and get to 7%, then the rule of 72 says 10.3 years. The actual years is 10.24 years. So you're starting to see that you can double your money with a 7% return in round about 10 years. And right after that, you've got a 9%, 8% rule. So we know that 9 times 8 is 72. 7.2 times 10 is 72. 12 times 6 is 72. So you can see that the 72 is a constant throughout these compound functions. The middle bracket there of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, up to 12 is typical of the interest rates and the term that you would use with the client. So what I'm saying is the beauty of the 72 rule is that it's reversible. For example, if you could achieve 9% for your client every year, then in 8 years, their money would double. 9 times 8 equals 72. But you can reverse that. If you achieved 8%, then it would double in 9 years. Again, 8 times 9 is 72. So when you come across a client who's looking to invest some money and they don't have a goal for this money, they just want it to grow, as an advisor, it's a good idea for you to try and encourage a goal for this money, a plan of action. Not just recommend the product or the funds that goes into, but recommend a target point and therefore achieve a shortfall that you can work with when you are talking to your clients on your annual reviews. If there is no goal, there's nothing that they can come up with that they're going to use this money for in the future, then set them a goal. And you could set them a goal of doubling their money in 10 years. You might decide 12 years. It's up to you. But you set a goal for them. And the 72 rule, therefore, in this instance, means why don't we try and double your goal, your investment in 10 years? That tells you that you need to achieve 7.2%. And you try and match that to their risk profile. So if they're not too willing to take a risk, then maybe you need to you need to extend that term maybe to 15 years and use a lower growth rate. That's the beauty of the 72 rule. Last week, when we looked at shortfall, we gave you this example. A client set a target of £600,000 to achieve an income of £30,000 at a point in the future. They had investment savings of £160,000, giving a shortfall, an actual shortfall of £440,000. The question was, when do you need this money? So we actually used the 72 rule to determine that the £160,000, with a given balanced attitude to risk, we could double it, achieving 7.2% in 10 years, meaning £320,000. Because in this example, that's when the client suggested they would like to retire. That gave them, therefore, a projected shortfall. If we manage to achieve double for the client of their invested money, it gave them a projected shortfall, E here, of £280,000. So the 72 rule allows you to calculate a projected shortfall. And therefore, it allows you to ask the question to the client, you've got a projected shortfall, what are you going to do about it? So what we're saying is that the shortfall themselves, the £440,000, is what we're trying to achieve the first time you come up with a plan for this client. But you can now use a 72 rule to project this growth forward and give a projected shortfall in the future, saying what are you going to do about the projected shortfall? You either have to take a higher risk, or you have to add more money, or reset your target to a longer period of growth, 15 years, or the one they don't want, which is a reduced retired income. The 72 rule allows you to pick out all these points without using cash flow modeling or a calculator. Let us consider the 72 rule in a slightly different way. So far, we've been looking at growth. What about using it to find out a number of years to achieve something by halving an investment? So in this example here, slightly different one, but same target, £600,000, the client has £150,000 so far of investments and savings that they're prepared to invest. And therefore, this gives us a shortfall of £450,000. Now let's say the investor has 20 years to invest this money. We know that the 72 rule at 7.2% will double the £150,000 to £300,000 in the first 10 years. And if we continue with the same investment and the same performance, then the second 10 years, it will double again. In other words, it'll go from 150 to 300, then it'll go from 300 to 600. That's how we can use a very simple 72 rule, 10 times 72, 10 years, 7.2% can double in 10 years, and we can all of a sudden, therefore, extrapolate that to 20 years. Cleverly, we can do it the other way around. We can start at the client's target, their goal of £600,000, and we can bring it back the way. If we can achieve 7.2% in 10 years, then we would need an investment of half that, £300,000 in 10 years. Let's halve the 300 to 150. So in 20 years, if we had 20 years to go, we'd need 150. Now, what if that client said, I've £600,000. How long will it take this £75,000 that I have to grow? Well, we can try the halving exercise. 600 halved once is 300, halved twice is 150, half it again is £75,000. So now we're near his figure of £75,000 that they have. The other 75 they might want to put somewhere slightly different. But we can use £75,000 instead of 150 if they have 30 years, because it's actually doubled once, twice, 3 times. It then brings the question, as usual, what are you going to do about it? Because it's a 30-year investment. Maybe they want to do it in 20 years. They either therefore have to put £150,000 in to achieve 20 years, or £75,000 if they're prepared to go 30 years. So we can look at setting lower targets, we can invest more money, and of course this starts to get the conversation around risk. In the examples, we've known that the client is looking for £600,000 to achieve the income they desire at some point in the future, 20 years or 10 years. And if they don't have a goal, then set a goal for them at doubling their investment in 10 years. Either way, the 72 rule works. But to achieve any goal, as you've probably noticed, and you're probably aware as well, that there are factors needed to achieve it. So time is one of them. 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. The rate of return, 2%, 5%, 15%. The investment amount. Are they investing all the £150,000? Can they invest the £50,000? Can they only invest the £75,000 from their savings? And of course, the important factor is the risk that they are prepared to take. Now we know that in order for £150,000 to reach £600,000, it will need to double twice at a medium risk, say, of 7.2%. But what if they're prepared to take a higher risk? It could be that they could achieve an awful lot more. 15% maybe, if they could achieve 15%, taking a higher or very high risk with their money, they could achieve that double in 5 years. Because the 72 rule says 72 divided by 15, which is the interest rate, equals 4.8. Again, this is an estimate, so it's therefore 5 years is the estimate to double the investment. Therefore, they could double the £150,000 to 600 twice. In other words, they can do it in 10 years. At 15%, they double in 5. Another 15%, they double in a second 5. So don't forget, this is all about starting with the end in mind. Set a goal. Once you've got a goal for your client, you focus on the shortfall, making sure that shortfall shrinks. But there is another question. What if a client said to you, what would I need to invest to achieve £200,000 in 10 years? Well, it depends on the risk. The 72 rule, once again, states that a medium risk of 7% would double your money from £100,000 to 200. Therefore, if someone says, what would I need to invest to get £200,000 in 10 years, you simply half the money, 100 grand. If a client was willing to take a high risk, say 12%, or a low risk, say 3%, then we know that that investment is either going to be much lower, £50,000 or £60,000, which is it'll double in 6 years, or a much higher amount needed, £150,000, because we know that the rule says it will double at 3% in 24 years. We haven't got that time, so you have to have a higher starting value. And all three of those work. 7.2 times 10 is 72, 12 times 6 is 72, and 3 times 24 is 72. What I suggest you do is get a pen and a piece of paper and experiment with the 72 rule. There are plenty of examples online. Just Google 72 rule and try a few out. Think about your last 5 or 6 clients you've spoken to, about their investments, about a goal you might set for them, and decide whether they are on target, whether they have a shortfall. Consider the risk and the performance of the investments that are being achieved. It's all about setting a goal, setting a target, and from that discussion, you can then have a sensible approach to talk about risk. Risk is vital, but if you don't talk about risk without understanding why, the client just wonders why this is relevant. So if you can say to somebody, let's try and set a goal, then we'll try and set a time frame to achieve that goal, and then we can demonstrate very quickly with the 72 rule the amount of return that is required to achieve this. And that is why you talk to a client at that point about the risk they're prepared to take. And there's plenty of things that they might be able to vary, i.e. the years to achieve the goal itself, or the risk they're prepared to take. Okay, this slide tells me that I've reached the end of this presentation. Please join me next week when I will start a presentation on financial advisor charges, and the first one will be on initial charges. So join me next week on our journey. As always, for more information, please go to thehappyfinancialadvisor.co.uk or find an advisor from our main website, trulyifa.co.uk, or you can buy the book, The Happy Financial Advisor, from Amazon.